Welcome back to Nightly Nonsense, where we make some sense out of the nonsense of the world. There is no better opportunity to do that when I get the opportunity to talk about my good friend, Robbie. He is a definitional nonsense, but he makes sense if you really pay attention person. So you and I have the mutual friend, Robbie.
Yes, we do.
And you just did a show with Robbie, Taking the Axe, and it's fantastic testimonial and whole story. And I don't want to take anything away from any of that, and we're not going to redo that. But I got some questions for you because I was listening to what you were saying. You said that you worked in a place called Big Puffs.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. Which is a vape shop.
Vapor shop, yes.
All right. So in all of your experience of working at a vape shop and being around the things that you've been around, when you were working there, did you walk in the day you met Robbie and went, I think I'm going to meet Jesus today?
No. Even after he first walked in, I was still not... Nowhere in my mind was that. And I don't think before Robbie stepped in the store that day that Jesus had been spoke about other than in vain.
Right. So we would expect that, most people would expect that in a vape shop, Jesus is not going to show up.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. He wasn't there. As far as we could see and talk about on a daily basis, was not present with us.
Okay, so now we talked about this a little bit earlier, but just to state for the record, right? Do you think that the average Christian person would even think about going into a vape shop?
I don't think so. And, maybe the average Christian that had an addiction to nicotine would walk in, but I don't think they're going to say anything about
being
Christianity. They're going to ask, what flavor we have and how we like it, and that'll be about that, the extent of the conversation.
You've been in church a little while now, so you're getting familiar with how church works.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
And again, this is nothing about your church. I'm talking about the big church,
in general, yeah.
Right? But in church, we are very quick to point out the sin.
Sure.
And we're pretty quick to pick out the sinners. But we're not very quick to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Right? So what we want is the sinner to be sinning and somehow get it on their own and then come to church.
Yeah.
Right? That's the common sense. But one day, you were standing in your vape shop, doing what vape shop people do.
Yeah.
Right? And this guy walked in.
Yes.
This little fuzzy, wuzzy guy walks into your store.
Yeah.
When you saw him, do you have any recollection of thinking or going, I should probably run and hide right now?
As soon as he started talking, I was like, oh boy, here we go. I have no idea who this guy is, but this sounds like it's going to be a fun conversation, only because he's just being loud, and
yes,
I want to stick around for this because...
So I'm very big on object lessons, right?
Yeah.
So the very first time that I met Robbie, in a very similar situation, I was in my little Christian bar, and I was behind the counter, and Fuzzy Wuzzy walked in, right? And he came up to me, and he immediately said to me that his mom had my picture on her dartboard. Now, I had never met Robbie. I had no clue who he was, and he's saying that his mom. And immediately, this was my reaction. I'd just like to show you this. Ready? See that? That's exactly my reaction.
Cartoon eyes. Oh, yeah.
Exactly. Who is this guy, and why is he in my place, and why did he just walk in? Right? Now, pretty similar to you. I didn't have the option of going to the back and hiding.
Yeah.
So the damage is done. He's already there in front of us.
Let's
right?
do this. Yeah.
But what was it about him that made you listen?
He came across intelligent, even through his loud and obnoxiousness, because he was definitely, you could tell there was something different about him, but he was very intelligent with the way he spoke, and he had a sense of knowledge that surprised me, because I was not expecting this to be a conversation where I learned something from, by any means, whether it had been sports or anything. And it's like I said, I started out in sports, and not long after it turned to the Bible, and that's where I was most impressed was with his knowledge of the Scripture, and he was quoting Scripture right off the top of his head, and that's something I struggle with, and I'm getting better at. He asked me earlier what I was reading currently, and I told him it was James 1:19. And I couldn't quote the scripture to you. I could paraphrase it like he did earlier. Be twice as quick to listen and less quick to come to anger, and or that's about the gist of it.
That's really important, right? So I'm obviously intrigued by this whole thing, right? One of the things that our ministry stands on is this whole idea of what are you doing and how can we join you, right? So unbeknownst to you, we down here do know about you, right? We just didn't know names and we didn't know of a face with it, but Robbie has asked us to join for years, in praying for his ministry to Big Puffs, which is obviously you and some of your friends, right, coworkers. And so to me, a day like today is fantastic because I've been hearing about this for years, right, about what's been going on with Robbie. And we've actually been lifting Robbie up, praying for him, right, and really commissioning him in a way, saying, hey, Robbie, we're behind you. Go do this, right? But we didn't do it with him. Like, he didn't drag any of us down there with him.
He came in by himself every time.
but he really came in here and started selling, like, hey, this is my ministry. Like, this is what I need to focus on, right? So again, Robbie came in to the store. Did he immediately talk to you about Jesus, or what did he do?
No. He made a quip about Tony Romo and how bad he had played the prior week, and one of the guys that was working there was a big Tony Romo fan, and his face turned red, and he tried to start defending Tony Romo rather quickly. And we talked sports for probably a good 15-20 minutes, and it wasn't long after the sports talk we kind of started rustling around a bit, and Rob looks at the other guy and he says, "Where's your stance on Jesus?" Just boom.
So I just want to make sure you get this straight. Robbie didn't walk in the door and go, "Hey, do you guys know Jesus?"
No, didn't do that.
Didn't say that, but Robbie just kind of walked in and was Jesus.
In essence, it was the essence of Jesus, because he came in and just ministered to us in a way that related to us. It caught our attention. It captivated us. We listened to him and we were just like, yeah, that makes sense. But let's ask him these questions. So we start firing questions at him. And he was, boom, quick with a response. And then, boom, quick with a response. Like, I don't know exactly the answer to that. Give me some time and I'll come back and answer that question for you.
So is it fair to say that Robbie was just simply being his Jesus to you guys?
Yeah, I would say yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So again, sometimes we think that we need to be quick to speak, not quick to listen.
Yeah.
Right. And slow to anger and slow to speak. Right. We need to be quick to just bring our Jesus out. Right. So if you were going to sum up who Robbie's Jesus was, right? Who is Robbie's Jesus? Do you think?
Just ever loving, so much love and passion, and just wanting you to follow him, just wanting you to believe in him and follow him and listen to him and be guided by him and just know him. If you get to know him, you're most of the way there. Just getting to know him, and it was amazing, because I was nowhere near ready to go to church or anything when Rob walked in that door. I'm sure I was going to a party that night or a bar that night or somewhere that was not a church. And when Rob left that night, I was thought about it for a while. I was like, where did this guy come from? Like, this guy, my buddy's known him for a long time. He mentioned him once or twice. But where did it come? Like, the conversation, I've never had a conversation like that. And just to look me straight in the face and say, what is my stance on Jesus? I said, who are you to? Nobody asked me that, But it made me think about, what is my stance on Jesus? Where do I stand? And that started the ball rolling. And all it takes is that ball just to get that little bit of rolling, because then, gravity takes over and it starts to pull, and that ball's rolling, and it rolls faster and faster, and then you can't stop it, and you want it to keep going, because the more you know Jesus, the better it is. It's just, it doesn't get much better.
Fantastic.
It can't get much better.
All right, here's what I want to do, because my show is way shorter than Robbie's. Right? I want to leave it right there. I want to pick up again in a minute for tomorrow night. I got a couple more questions for you, but I appreciate you talking about something that's super important to me. Right? Who's your Jesus?
My pleasure.
Right?
I'm appreciative to be here.
Fantastic. We'll pick this up again in a minute here, but in a nighttime with you guys. We'll see you next time. Nightly Nonsense.